Becca Meyers, deaf-blind Paralympian, world record holder, and advocate for disability equity. Underneath the words are the logos for the Wisconsin Deaf-Blind Technical Assistance Project and Ideas That Work. 3 people appear on the screen in 3 separate videos. In the top left is Jen Gettleman wearing a swim cap and goggles with a towel around her neck. Becca Meyers is in the top right. Underneath is Jenny, a deaf interpreter.
I just want to say hello to everyone. We are so excited to be here tonight and to have Becca with us to just share a little bit about her experience and answer our questions and just share a little bit more about herself. Before we get started, I just want to explain a little bit about the accessibility that we have tonight. We do have Jenny, and she is our deaf interpreter. Behind the scenes are Mary and Jennifer as interpreters, and so you may hear their voices. And then also we do have closed captions. So if you look for that CC button on the bottom of your Zoom screen, you could enable closed captions. Before we get started, I see a couple of our families are here. So Becca just kind of wanted to see who she was speaking with tonight. So I am going to welcome the families on screen and the children on screen just for 1 minute. We're going to take a real quick picture, and then I will take everyone off screen and then give it a minute, and then I will turn it on over to Becca once we take that picture and we get Jenny, our interpreter, back on the screen. So I'm going to go off screen for 1 minute, but I will start letting families on so that Becca can say hello to everyone. And then I will let you know before we take the picture. And then once we're done taking the picture, I will send you back to be a participant. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. And we will probably try to do another picture just to make sure we get everybody after Becca's done kind of sharing her presentation with the kids before we do our question and answer. So I am going to turn it on over to Becca right now. I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming, and we are so excited, Becca.
All right. Hi, everyone. So my name's Becca Meyers, and I'm very, very excited to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you so much for having me. I'm going to share a little bit about myself. So I am 27 years old. I was born with Usher Syndrome, and I'll describe what that is in a little bit. And so my sport is swimming, and I'm a 2-time Paralympic swimmer. I attended the 2012 London Paralympic Games as well as the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games. I have multiple world records, 23 American records, and I am a 2-time ESPN SB Best Female Athlete with the Disability Award winner, and I'm also a recent graduate of Franklin Marshall College. I graduated last year, and that is my proudest accomplishment to date. I was very, very excited to finish college. It was a long road, but that's very, very excited. So what is Usher syndrome? So I was born completely deaf, but I wear 2 cochlear implants that allow me to hear and talk with you this evening. I have retinitis pigmentosa, which means that I am night blind and I have a very, very limited vision, and one day I will go blind. So I have about 5% vision field in my right eye and 2% in my left eye, so it's very, very limited. And then also with Usher syndrome, I have balance issues. super fun. So I walk with a wide gait, and with I have a seeing eye dog, so Birdie. She is my seeing eye dog. I've had her for about 6.5 years now. She's a yellow lab with a little bit of golden. She weighs about 50 pounds. She is just so cute. She has brown eyes. Had love her. So she is my eyes in this world. She has been on airplanes. She's gone to all my swim meet competitions, and she even went to Canada. We were on a boat on at Niagara Falls, and she went into the falls with me. She was not happy on that boat. But anyway, so Birdie's my eyes in this world, and so with my balance, I'll lean on her and her harness for support. And then if I don't have Birdie with me, I'll use my cane and lean on that for support, or even lean on a human guide for support if I start to struggle with my balance. I'm the youngest of three. I have an older brother and an older sister who are not deaf and not blind. They are hearing and sighted. So there is no history of Usher's or deafness or blindness in my family that I'm aware of. I wanted to do everything my siblings were doing. I wanted to keep up with them. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to do everything. They were doing whatever sport they were doing, soccer, baseball, skiing, swimming, whatever it was, I wanted to do it. So I did. So I did everything. I tried to keep up with them. So when I was about 5 years old, that summer, we were up at the summer league pool and they were swimming, and I wanted to swim. I wanted to get in the pool. I wanted to see what it was like. So I got in and I fell in love with the water. I couldn't get out of the water. It was so peaceful. So my mom saw that, how much I loved the water, and was like, oh, for safety reasons, since I couldn't hear in the water, we should probably give her some swim lessons. So she signed me up for swim lessons at age 5. You could not get me out of the water. I loved it so much. I loved being in the water, not letting my disabilities get in the way. So the swim instructor saw that and was like, hey, we need to get, said to my mom, you need to get this baby on the swim team. So the following summer, I joined the summer swim team. I remember my first race. It was the 25-meter freestyle, one lap from one end to the other end of the pool, freestyle. I dove in, started swimming really, really fast. I was trying so hard to keep up with the kids, and I touched the wall, and someone said, hey, you won. So I won my first race. I still have that blue ribbon today, and I never looked back. So growing up, swimming was a great outlet for me. It allowed me to disconnect from the world. It allowed me to regroup and forget that I have disabilities, that I'm deaf and blind. So swimming gave me my identity in this world. It allowed me to be just Becca. Growing up, I was known as Becca the swimmer, not Becca the deaf blind girl. And I loved how my passion for swimming gave me my identity in this world. So the pool was the one place where I could go and just relax after a long day of working really, really hard at school. Because when I was at school, I was working twice as hard as everyone else to listen, to see, to navigate the school building. So I was pretty tired when I got to the pool, but I didn't care because I knew as soon as I got in the water, I was free. I could relax. I could forget about my disabilities. I could just be. It was therapy for me. So I loved how the pool was my happy place, the one place where I could go and just be. So when I was about 12 years old, I started Googling motivating quotes, printing them out, and putting them up on the wall of my bedroom, all over the walls. And I would read them every single night before I went to bed, just reading the positivity in them. It helped me just be more motivated. And I was surrounded by positivity all the time because I couldn't hear the negativity when I was in the pool. Since I couldn't wear my implants in the pool. So I just always thought positively. I made this a part of who I am as a swimmer and as a person. To this day, I still Google positive quotes and I still enjoy seeing the positivity because I like finding positive thoughts and feeling positive despite my challenges as a deafblind individual facing obstacles on a daily basis. So you just want to find your outlet, find an activity that takes away from your focus of being deaf and being blind, and just relax somewhere where you can go and escape after a long day. It doesn't have to be for a gold medal. It just has to make you happy. When I started swimming, I was not a very good swimmer, but I loved it. I loved being in the pool. I loved going to practice and just being free in the water. So I want to share a couple of my proudest moments in the pool. So my proudest moment is when I was able to compete, when I qualified and competed at the 2016 NCAA Division III College Swimming Championships. They took place in North Carolina. So while I was a student at Franklin Marshall College, I was also a part of the swim team. And that year, in 2015 to 2016, I wanted to qualify for NCAAs. That was my biggest goal that swim season, to qualify for the NCAAs. And so my favorite event in college swimming was the mile, which is 66 laps. Yeah, 66 laps. It was a long race, but I loved it. I loved competing distance races. And I think the reason why I loved doing distance races so much was that when I did the shorter races, I was always behind, because when I would start, I usually had to watch the hand signal go off, or go off the girl next to me, or have a small light under my block, and something was always bound to go wrong for some reason. So I was never very good. I was always the last one off the blocks. So I was not very good at catching up to the girls in a shorter race, whereas the distance races, the longer ones, I could catch up to them and then maintain pace. And so I really, really loved going the extra mile, training endurance. So anyway, so I qualified in the mile that year for NCAAs, and I was so excited to be able to go NCAAs and compete against the best kids in the nation, able-bodied kids. I was just so excited. I wanted to prove that I belonged there and that my disabilities were not going to hold me back. So I trained really, really hard that season, and I qualified to compete in the finals that night at NCAAs in the mile. And so, okay, I was like, all right, great. I'm in finals. Now let's see if I can place in top 8. So top 8, they were giving out trophies. They were recognizing those swimmers as All-America swimmers. So that was my goal. I wanted to be on the podium with everyone else. So I trained hard for that. So the night of the race, I swam my heart out. And when I touched the wall, I found out that I got 6 overall, 6. So I was so happy that I was able to, that I achieved my goal that I set for myself, that I worked so hard for. And I was so proud that I did not let my disabilities hold me back, and that I could do what I loved. So another proud moment for me in swimming was when I won my first gold medal. And I actually do have my gold medal here tonight. So I will describe it in a minute because it's actually pretty cool. But I'll give a little background and then I'll describe the uniqueness of this medal. So I actually attended the London 2012 Games and I won a silver and a bronze medal. As soon as I touched soil in the US after the games coming home, I set a new goal for myself. I wanted to win a gold medal at the 2016 Paralympic Games. So how was I going to get there? I was going to train really hard. I was going to change my diet. I was going to make sacrifices. I'm going to gear the next 4 years to winning a gold medal. And that's exactly what I did. So 4 years later, in my first race in Rio, it was the 100-meter butterfly. And I swam my heart out that night. I touched the wall. I looked up. I was looking at the scoreboard, trying to figure out what place did I come in? I can't quite see. Then someone told me, and I was very, very excited. So I got up on the podium stand and was just beaming. And so the presenter put the medal around my neck, and I dipped a little because it was so heavy. So the reason why it was so heavy in 2016 is that the IPC, the International Paralympic Committee, wanted to do something special for the blind and visually impaired athletes at these games, because we could never quite, like in previous games, we could never quite tell which medal was which. So they wanted to distinguish each medal so that we could tell which one's which. So in a gold medal, shake it, and it has beads in it, so it makes a sound. So each medal has a number of beads and they make a different sound. So in a gold medal, it was 28 beads. In a silver medal, 20, and in a bronze medal, 16. So when the presenter put the medal around my neck, I held it right up to my ear and I shook it. And I was so excited that I could hear that my implants allowed me to hear that medal shake and make that sound. So it made that moment even more special for me. Another proud moment I want to share with you is that when I had the opportunity to be sponsored by Speedo USA, the world's #1 swimsuit company in swimming. It was an incredible opportunity. I remember again the phone call, and they said, hey, we would love you to be a part of our team as a Paralympian. We would love to sponsor you. So what that means is that they sent me competitive and training equipment that I could wear at competitions and at practice and go to photo shoots and be a part of the team. So I remember when I was 6 years old thinking to myself, how cool would it be if Speedo were to sponsor me? And fast forward almost 20 years later, that dream coming true. It was just so incredible. And so if you work hard and believe in yourself and dream big, think opportunities will happen. So that was a really, really cool moment, receiving that phone call. And then another proud moment in swimming for me was when I had the opportunity to train with the greatest swimmer of all time, Michael Phelps. We were actually training at the same facility, at the same club team, leading into the Rio 2016 games. And I remember a couple times when I had to share a lane with him at practice. He's 6'5" and I'm 5'3", and he's, super tall and super big and everything. So it was just standing next to him was like, wow. So that was really cool, having that opportunity to train with him. And then a couple years later, I actually did have the opportunity to train with the greatest female swimmer of all time, Katie Ledecky, as we were preparing for the 2020 Tokyo Paralympic Games. So those are some of the moments that I will cherish for life. So I have my good moments in swimming, but I also had some tough moments in swimming. It wasn't easy. getting to achieve my goals. And so I want to share a couple of challenges I faced along the way. Even though NCAA's Division III championships that I talked about, that being my proudest moment, it was also my toughest moment as a swimmer. So I put a lot of pressure on myself at that meet because I wanted to prove something to myself. I wanted to prove that I could be there, that I could handle being at a meet with able-bodied kids and not letting my disabilities hold me back. So that was very, very stressful, having that kind of stress I put upon myself. The venue where the meet was at was not well lit, and it was a very unfamiliar place to me. So it was very dark. So I struggled. I struggled to see the wall. I struggled to just be engaged in the race. So preparations was very hard. I wore clear goggles, but still it was very, very tough. The event was at night, but it was darker, so it was even harder. So every lap was really, really hard, but I pushed through because I really, really wanted to achieve that goal that I had set for myself, to be on the podium receiving an NCAA trophy with everyone else. So I pushed through. When I touched the wall, I was so happy that that race was over. And I was just really, really glad it was done. But I was really, really proud of myself that I stayed with it, that I didn't quit in the middle of the race. So that was, it was hard, but I was very proud of myself. So another challenge that I faced as a swimmer on a day-to-day basis, I had my good days and my not so good days at the pool based on the pool conditions. Even though the pool was my happy place, it was also a place where I struggled a lot because of my disabilities. Some days the lighting was not great in the pool, so I couldn't see as well. So I would struggle to see the wall. I would struggle to stay on my side of the lane. It was just, so those were hard days. Another hard day was when there would be a lot of kids at practice and the waves would be really big. So that was really hard to fight through with my balance through the waves. So I would get tired more easily and get very frustrated. And then another one was when, because I couldn't hear in the water, and if my coach was talking or kids were talking about something and I would miss it, I would feel left out. So those were just, it was a challenge. And some days I wouldn't get a good workout in. I would leave practice early, but I loved swimming so much and I was striving to be better that I always went back to the pool the next day to try again. So as a swimmer, I made a lot of sacrifices. I did not have a normal life. I mean, who does? So I gave up a lot of social events with friends, and I gave up relationships, and I changed my diet to eat healthier. I went to bed earlier because it was easier for me to pick swimming over social events, like let's say going out with friends to the movies or to restaurants or to a party, because those environments were so loud and so dark that it was just hard. So I just was like, no, I'm gonna stay home. I'm gonna focus on swimming. I'm gonna go to bed early. I have practice tomorrow morning and things like that. And then sometimes it was just really hard, and sometimes I got left out of these social events. So it was just easier for me to pick swimming over a party. But I did make sacrifices and it was worth it. It was. Another big struggle I wanted to talk about is that during the last 10 years, I traveled, not in the last 10 years, but like, anyway, there were several years where I did travel alone to international competitions, to training camps, and I would have to meet up with the team in a different city, and it was just really tough traveling airports alone and just navigating new environments alone. And oftentimes on these trips, there were always new faces, new coaches, new teammates. So I didn't quite trust them, open up to them for help. So I struggled a lot. And that's why, as I got older, I realized I need a person of whom I trust to travel with me so that I can enjoy my competition or a training camp I was going to. So that was really, really important. So I want to talk about a couple of obstacles as a deafblind person that I've experienced. And so living with Usher syndrome does not get easier as I get older. It just becomes different. The challenges I face become different. The situations I find myself in are at each phase in my life are different. It just, how will I adapt to it? That is up to you, to me, how we want to create our own world that makes us feel comfortable. I'm still figuring that out, and I'm 27 years old. I am creating my own comfortable world for myself as a young adult. I am learning how to say no to what makes me uncomfortable and finding joy in activities that are accessible to me. You will face a lot of trial and error in discovering your world, what your world means to you, but you will find a world that is very comfortable for you. Another obstacle that I face on a daily basis with my disabilities is that my disabilities are invisible. People forget or do not believe me that I am deaf and blind, because when they take one look at me, they think, oh, you're just a girl with a really cute dog. They constantly are questioning me and my disabilities on a daily basis. I mean, questioning me, the person with disabilities. So I have tried to educate them and push away those negative comments and doubt, and just try and be patient and say, not all disabilities are visible. So I try to be patient, but from time to time, I do get frustrated. A lot of times, I have found that I feel like I am caught in between multiple worlds, floating in one world and floating out of another world. I'm not just deaf, I'm not just blind, I'm deaf blind. So there's not really quite a place where I can fit. So it's tricky. I'm caught, and because my appearance disguises my disabilities, and people don't believe that I need accommodations when I request for them. So it can be tough trying to figure out where we belong. So it's a lot to handle. So where do we belong? I mean, that's a question, and I still ask myself that question every day. I still struggle, and I've been doing this for all my life, putting on different hats to adapt to the current environment or situation that I'm currently in. As a result, as a result of this constant floating back and forth, I am constantly always on alert. So the one thing that I have found as a deafblind person is that I am constantly on alert all the time, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it can take a toll. My anxiety is always high. My anxiety will never disappear, and I am working on that daily to accept my anxiety, talk to my anxiety, and just accept that it's a part of me. We do need to recognize that every person with a disability, there is a higher level of anxiety on a daily basis because the world is not built for us, and we are constantly working around obstacles. We might look like we're doing okay, but deep down, we are always on alert, always observing and learning the world around us. I have found ways to cope with my anxiety. So I have found outlets such as, like, when you come home, finding an outlet such as painting, listening to music, exercising, reading a book, just regrouping from the day. These outlets help me unwind from my day and just process what I experience and learn how to adapt to a situation or environment for the next day. How can I make tomorrow easier for me? So, growing up, I had to learn how to advocate for myself. And by learning how to advocate for myself has made me a stronger and more independent person than I am today, who happens to be deaf and blind. I remember in high school, I had a wonderful teacher. Her name was Mrs. Potter, who helped me become a stronger advocate for my educational and life needs. She was great because she could see the girls who were struggling in high school and help us have a stronger voice in fighting for our needs. So I thank her today for giving me the strength and courage to continue to advocate for my educational and life needs. I remember in high school that I hid my disabilities a lot. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be normal and be like the girls in my class. I didn't want anyone to know that I couldn't hear or see. But at the same time, I wanted people to know that I couldn't hear or see because I needed help. It was a very tricky line trying to figure out where do I belong, because I multiple worlds caught in between different worlds. So that was a very tricky time for me, but it was, at the end of the day, I would use my voice and advocacy to receive the resources I needed in order to be successful in high school. I also had to advocate for myself at the pool. I remember at a very, very early age that my coach said to me, you have to have a strong voice and you need to go advocate for yourself and asking for accommodations that you need at a swim meet. So for me at a swim meet, I need a light, a smaller light that is connected to the starting machine, the starting horn, and that small light would go under my block, or I need a hand start. So what that means is that the official would put his hands up, take your mark, get set, and then drop the hand, and I would know to go. So I would always have to find the official before my races and tell them what I needed. So it became second nature to me as I got older, finding officials and talking to them, telling them what I needed. I remember when I was younger, when my coach started making me do this, I was not happy with him. I did not like it that I had to speak up for myself. But now looking back, I thank him for teaching me that skill at an early age. I remember in college that when I was a freshman, I was very embarrassed. I did not want to go to disability services. I did not want accommodations. I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to fit in. I didn't want anyone to know that I needed a note taker or use my computer in class when we couldn't and things like that. But throughout my college years, I pushed that embarrassment aside and really embrace that I needed my accommodations, because I need these accommodations in order to be successful in the classroom. I remember I became very good friends with the people at Disability Services. I was emailing them on a weekly basis, asking where are my notes from my note taker. I offered feedback, trying to make it better for the next student with a disability to have it a little bit easier than I did. So So my biggest point I would like to take away from that advocacy is speak up. If you don't ask, you will not get the services you need. So speak up. People can't read your mind. We need to share what we need, and yeah. So as some of you may know, through the news last summer, I turned down my spot to compete at the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic Games due to a denial of a basic and reasonable accommodation. I have requested a person of whom I trust to travel with me to Tokyo. Since 2017, I had this accommodation put in place. I had permission to have a person of whom I trust to travel with me to international competitions because I needed that person to help me navigate new and unfamiliar environments. However, with getting that accommodation since 2017, I had to ask for it every single year, which is crazy because once I asked for it, I should have that accommodation put in place, but they were questioning my needs. Every year I had to go and say, hey, I need this accommodation in order to be successful. And so it was a battle every year asking for this accommodation. But I would in the end, I would get this accommodation, a person of whom I trust to travel with me. However, last summer, they denied that request. They denied my basic, reasonable accommodation, and that was a denial of my human rights as a disabled person. So that's why I said no. I said no, absolutely not. I will not attend the Tokyo Paralympic Games. I had qualified for the games. This was right after trials. I had qualified. I had trained 5 years for this event. There was an extra year in there because of the pandemic. So gave up 5 years and they said no. So they said no because of COVID regulations. So I said, no, I'm not going to go to the games, and I need to speak up about this so that the next athlete does not have to suffer the way I suffered. Because I am the best judge of my needs and accommodations that I need. I know what I need in order to be successful and safe, and what is equal and fair to me as a human being. So stand up for what you need. Your support system cannot read your mind unless you tell them what works and what doesn't. They will listen because they want you to succeed. Last but not least, lean on your support system. Surround yourself with people who care about you. Your family, your friends, neighbors, teachers, coaches. Your support system want to help you. Let them. Be open with them about how you are feeling. Lean on them. I lean on my support system daily, especially my mom. She is my eyes and ears in situations when I feel extremely overwhelmed, and we have communicated over the years what works and what doesn't. She knows when I'm feeling overwhelmed and when I need assistance. Otherwise, my mom will step back and allow me to live. Be proud of having someone by your side to assist you, because you do not need to be miserable in order to enjoy all that life has to offer. You all are truly amazing, and I am so proud of all of you.
Thank you, Becca. This is Jen. I think what we're going to do now is have some time for some question and answers. So we invite all of you to share questions in the chat. However, I would love to bring you on screen as well. So if you don't want to be on screen, maybe just put that in the chat after your question. And if you are okay coming on screen to ask your question, put that as well, just so I know whether or not to invite you onto the screen. And as people are thinking of questions, you can put those either in the chat box or in the question and answer box. We do have a few questions that I have received just privately. And so, oh, I see one already. Okay, so Liam has a question. Liam, are you guys okay coming on to the screen to ask your question? Perfect. Let me get you on. And Liam is coming on right now.
So we are wondering if you ever wear an Aqua cochlear implant in the pool.
So I have heard of those, and I actually have the kit for that, but I've never tried it. I guess because for me, I started swimming at such an early age without that accessibility tool that to me today, it just seems like, no, the pool is my happy place. That's where I can go, take my ears off, disconnect from the world.
They do.
I am going to ask a question while I bring on another person who has a question. But what would you tell your teen self if you had to go back to when you were in high school and tell yourself something that you now know? What would that be?
That's a really good question. I would tell myself, don't try so hard to hide your disabilities. Embrace them. And now being older, when I share that I need a little help, most people are willing to help me. And looking back in my high school years and my high school friends, if I said, hey, I need a little help, they would have helped. My friends would have definitely helped. And I still have some good high school friends today, but yeah, I would don't hide them. Ask for help, it's okay, is what I would tell myself.
Great. All right, I see a couple other questions coming in, so I'm going to let Mary Ann on the screen. And as I do that, one of the other questions that came in was, when did you realize you were deafblind?
So I was diagnosed with Usher's at age 4. My parents thought I was just deaf, but then they saw that I was struggling to see, so we went to the eye doctor, and that's when I was diagnosed at age 4.
All right, Mary Ann, are you able to turn on your camera or your microphone to ask your question?
I didn't see they were off, but yes is the answer. So my question, Becca, back at the beginning, you shared and showed your gold medal with the shakers inside. Do the second place and third place medals also have shakers? And do they all sound the same, or do they all get to be different?
So they're all different. They all make different sounds. So my silver medal has, so in a gold medal, the one I have here has 28 beads, and it makes this kind of sound. So it's like high pitch kind of a sound. And then in a silver medal, it has 20 beads and it makes a different pitch. And then in a bronze, it's 16 beads and that's a different pitch. So there is you can definitely tell the difference between the 3 medals.
Very cool. That was what I wanted to hear, that whoever came up with the shaker idea also differentiated between the various place values. Very cool. Thank you. I'll let somebody else go, but I have more questions otherwise.
All right, I am going to bring Sid on. He has a question. And as we're waiting for Sid to get on, another question we had was, what types of technology did you use in college to help you access your classes?
So I used my computer. I used, what else did I use? I had e-textbooks on my iPad, and I had a note taker where the note taker would type up the notes and upload them to the, let's say, the Google Drive. So I was able to access the notes very quickly. So everything was right at my fingertips. I also had an FM system. So the teacher would wear a microphone, and it would go right to my implant. So that was really cool having that technology. So just everything that was accessible, I tried to get my hands on.
Hi, Sid. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Now look at this. Hello.
And then go ahead and ask your question that you had for Becca.
I'm wondering, are you gonna be doing the next Olympics and Paralympics?
So I actually am not. I retired this year from swimming.
That's cool.
I have a full-time job now, so I don't have as much time to train.
What is the full-time job?
So I'm an HR assistant,
It's human resources.
human resources, yeah.
She helps people when they're new at their jobs.
And your story is almost exactly like mine, but some of it is like flipped.
When Sid was first adopted, we knew that he was blind, but we did not know that he was deaf. And we found that out later. So that's what he's referring to. It's the opposite of your story.
Yeah.
At the computer.
All right. Thank you, Sid.
Thank you.
There were several questions, Becca, just about the degree that you earned and what your job was, but you kind of answered that. And then Kelly had a comment and she just said shakers and medals. That's really cool. And Leah said, yes, that is amazing. If I don't see any other questions in the chat yet. Oh, Elise has a question. Elise, I'm going to change you to a panelist so that you can come on and ask your question.
Can you hear us?
We can. Hi, Elise.
So Elise doesn't talk, but she can hear people. And she sometimes has problems connecting with other people. So people think that she can't hear them, but she can. So how do you cope when you would feel left out because you couldn't hear others? Or when maybe they thought you couldn't hear them, but maybe started talking about you?
It was hard, especially when people would start talking about me as if I was not there. Even though I'm standing right there, I would say, hey, I can hear you. Just look at me so I can read your lips and we can have a conversation. So I would just try and get their attention and remind them gently that I'm here. I'm human. I'm standing right in front of you. And then the second question, how did I feel when I was left out of situations? Is that right?
Yeah, and how did you cope with that? Or, talk to them about it?
It was hard. And I think as I got older, I became more comfortable in saying to them, hey, you're leaving me out. Can you try not to do that? am a person. You just have to look at me when you talk, or we have to go to a quiet place, or so I can hear you better, or find other ways to communicate. So when I was younger, I would just hide my frustration, cope, but realized as I got older that wasn't working. So I became more vocal about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Becca, I see Liam has another question. So Liam, if you want to turn your camera back on, you should be able to.
Liam is an avid Braille reader. And so we were just wondering if you use Braille at all in anticipation of the day when you possibly may not be able to use your usable vision anymore, or what kind of technology are you using?
So right now I'm actually using a lot of technology that has voiceover, text to speech, especially on my iPhone. My iPhone is compatible with my Cochlear implants, so everything's Bluetooth. So I love that feature so much. So everything goes right to my ear. So I'll just hit the button on my phone and it'll read everything to me. I don't know Braille. I would love to learn Braille. That is definitely on my list. But technology is amazing, and I also have a lot of faith in science. So hopefully, but yeah, you never know what life's gonna bring.
That was a great question, Liam. And then I see Marianne has asked another question. She just asked, do you have a best friend?
I do have a best friend. I've actually had this friend since I was 10 years old. So she is a very good childhood friend, and we still talk every day.
Another question that came in is just, do you have a favorite swim stroke?
I do. I like freestyle a lot.
And then Jolene was asking too, can you cook and make your own meals?
I can cook. I love to bake. I love baking. I love baking cupcakes and muffins and things like that. And then I do know how to cook. I cook myself breakfast, eggs, and things like that, pasta. I'm not an advanced cooker yet. I'm learning.
And I love that you said yet. You're not an advanced cooker yet. That means that you will continue to try and get better at that skill, which is important. Jenny was wondering, where did you get your dog from? And can we see him or her? I don't know if the dog is around you or not.
So I got Birdie from the Seeing Eye, and they are located in Morristown, New Jersey. They are actually the oldest guide dog school in America. So that's where Birdie came from. And where is she? Okay, I'm gonna try and she's asleep behind me. So let me see if I can.
We can see her.
Hey, Bird. You want to say hi? Yeah, you're just like, I'm tired.
All right. I guess there's one more question. So I'll ask that. So if anybody has any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, after this question, we'll switch back to Becca, who's going to share a message to our parents. I see Jenny has asked a question. Was it hard to learn how to work with Birdie?
Yes and no. Yes, it was very hard to learn how to work with Birdie because she's actually the first dog I've ever had. I did not have a dog growing up, so that was a whole new learning experience for me, how to care for a dog. But no, it was not hard to learn how to work with Birdie because she gave me so much confidence in myself and the freedom to be able to go outside and take a walk and not worry that I was in danger.
And then Mary Ann asks, how about sign or ASL? Do you use either?
So I know a little bit of ASL, more baby signs that my mom taught me when I was younger before I got implanted. So I still use those signs when I have my ears off. When I'm at home or at the pool, I'll use those signs, but I'm not fluent in ASL.
And then this, I think, might be the last question, but how did you meet most of your friends?
At school or at the pool. So before swim practice, I would keep my ears on and I would try and socialize and hang out with the other girls or the boys on the swim team. And then at school, same thing. I was just always, in the lunchroom or after school activities, or I joined a club at school, just trying to be social. That's where I would meet most of my friends.
Great. All right. It looks like there are no other questions at this time. So I'm going to turn it back over to you to share your message with parents.
All right. So just a couple of talking points with the parents that I just wanted to share. And I did have a conversation with my parents because I wanted to hear what they had to say when I was growing up, because it's not easy. So my parents had a lot of fears. Every parent has them, and that's okay. Even today, my parents still have fears and they still worry about me. So what kind of worries do they have? Well, will they be okay? What kind of support or resources do they need? What kind of life will they lead? What will society accept them? Will they be able to hold down a job, receive an education? All of these questions and worries are valid. But remember, don't get too far ahead. They are constantly changing and evolving for the better. Like everything, education's evolving, becoming more accessible, society's becoming more accepting. So don't worry, don't get too ahead. Just take it one day at a time. My parents had all of these questions, and like I said, they still worry today. So for my parents, they decided to implant me at age 2 because I was born deaf into a hearing family, and there was no, at the time when I was implanted, there was no guarantee that a cochlear implant would work, but my parents wanted to try. They just wanted to try and give me every opportunity to hear. They said to me that if I got older and I didn't want to wear my implant anymore, that was okay. They just wanted to try. And that's like the biggest thing. Just try everything. So they shared this story with me. For my parents, their biggest goal for me was to walk into Burger King and verbally communicate with the cashier my order, like a Happy Meal, and the cashier would be able to hear me and understand what I was saying. And it worked. And now I talk on the phone all day at work, and it's amazing what technology can do. So what my parents did for me is that they educated themselves on what Usher Syndrome is, what is deafness, what is blindness. They researched the tools that I needed to be successful. They talked to people. They did some research. They just tried to learn everything about Usher's deafness and blindness, and they were able to provide me a safe place where I could thrive. Also, they did not take no for an answer. there were doubters and a lot of negative comments towards my parents about giving me the ability to attend school with mainstream. So they said, no. We're not going to listen to your negative comments. We're going to enroll Becca in school. We're going to give her a safe place because she deserves this. She can go to school. Things like that. They advocated for me for years until I was old enough to advocate for myself. I learned from their strength, dedication, and perseverance that anything is possible, and you can accomplish that anything is possible and can be accomplished when you ask for help and try. But sometimes things don't always work out. I remember when I was at college, I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to be independent. I really, really wanted to do it. So I did. My parents let me. I hated it. I hated it so much. I did not like it at all. But I kept trying. I kept trying every different avenue, every scenario. I tried for several years. And then it just wasn't working. So I said no. And I came to that realization, and I chose not to live on my own anymore. Today, I choose to live at home with my parents, but that's okay. I mean, I'm still independent. I make my own doctor's appointments. I have my own health care. I pay my own bills. I have a full-time job. I'm very independent, but I just choose to live at home with people who I trust. But my parents let me try, and I'm very, very grateful that they let me try. So assistive technology, we talked a little bit about this just a few minutes ago, but every day technology is evolving. There are new features out there. I try and keep up with the latest. I mean, I love my phone, I love my computer, my iPad. It allows me to be successful in my daily life. When I was finishing up college last year during the pandemic, all my classes were online on Zoom or Google Meets or any other platforms. There was this really cool assistive technology that the school provided for me, and it's called Otter AI, and it's live captioning. So my lectures were live captioned in real time. So that was really cool, having my computer up for Zoom and then an external monitor with live captioning coming up, and I could understand what exactly was happening at my fingertips. Because in a classroom setting, I struggled. I would struggle to hear what the other students were saying. So it was tough, but assistive technology is always evolving and improving, and I love how it gives me the ability to achieve my educational goals. So it's incredible. I love the independent. I also use assistive technology at my current job right now, and I love the independence that it gives me. So the last point that I would like to make this evening, and for me, is the most important point. Make home a safe place. Create an environment that allows them to come home and completely disconnect and relax. It is important to feel safe and to be able to breathe deeply after a long day of being on alert. When I come home from a really long day out in the world, I like to take my ears off, and I like to take my glasses off and just decompress. I like to find activities around the house that let me unwind from being on alert all day. Some days are harder to unwind for me than others, depending on how much stimulation I had that day. Let them come home. Let them cry if they need to. I still cry to this day. I mean, some days are just really hard that I just have to cry. And when I cry, I just release all that stress and tension. I remember a few weeks ago, I came home from work. It was a really long day. Everyone was just dumping things on me, and I was just feeling very overwhelmed. I came home, I cried for a good 20 minutes, and then afterwards I felt so much better. So just let them release all that stress. I like finding activities around the house that allow me to disconnect from the world, like painting, listening to music, working out, walking Birdie, things like that. A safe place filled with people that they trust. To, that they trust. I mean, like I said, I live with my parents because I trust them. And I trust that they will be here and help me when I struggle or when there's an emergency. I remember when I lived on my own in college, I did not trust my roommates because I did not know who they were and I couldn't bring myself to open up to them. So I like coming home and taking my ears off and just relaxing and not worrying about who is going to walk in the front door and that I don't know and things like that. Because at the office, strangers and coworkers are constantly walking into my office without announcing themselves and often scaring me as I am immersed in my work. I'm very jumpy at work, but when I come home, I trust that my parents are home and I know that I can come and just be. I would like to conclude with this thought. Let them talk to you. They will know when it is time to ask for help, resources, things like that. I knew it was time when I needed a guide dog or a person, support person, or other resources. And I had to accept that I needed those resources in order to be successful. I am constantly asking my mom for advice on how to navigate this world as an adult. I'll take her advice as well as my dad's, think about it and figure out how I'll apply it to my world as a deafblind person. I love talking things through with them, with my parents, because when I was younger, I hid my feelings from my parents because I just wanted to be normal like my siblings. I didn't want my parents to know that I was struggling. But as I got older, I started talking to my parents and I realized that they are here to help me. So let them know that you are there for them and let them talk to you when they are ready. I mean, the most important thing from my experience as a deafblind person is trust. Let them trust you by showing them that they can trust you and depend on you for help. They will be amazing because they have you to cheer them on. Keep being amazing. You are doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
What a great message, Becca. Thank you. We do have a few minutes left. So if parents, if you have questions for Becca about anything you're wondering, you're welcome to come on camera. But if you do not want to come on camera, that is okay too. You can just type them in the chat and we can answer them. And really anyone who is watching is welcome to ask a question. And so we do have a couple that have come through. One was, how did you decide on your job? So how did you decide to go into HR?
So I was just trying to, at the time when I started my job search last fall, I still didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to do. And I felt that HR is kind of a job field where there's so much you can learn. So I think that's why I was drawn to it, because I just wanted to learn and see what's it like in working in an office, because I'd never worked in an office before. As being a professional swimmer, I was constantly on the road and traveling and kind of pretty independent. So this way I was like, all right, I want to learn something new. HR, let's see how that goes. And it's been a great experience so far. I've learned a lot.
Great. And then another question was, what types of accommodations did you ask for at your job?
So I asked for a work phone that is compatible with my implant. So iPhone, so they gave me an iPhone. They gave me a huge computer screen that is 28 inches long. It's like a mini TV. I really like it. It's really big. It's so they gave me that, and then there's another tool they gave me for reading documents that are really tiny or old handwritten documents, a CCTV. So it's a portable screen reader that sits right on my desk, and I can zoom in, and it's really amazing. I love it. And then I also have my iPad to zoom in on other objects as well, like documents and screen reader, and yeah.
Great. And I know many of the children who are deafblind within our project use a variety of technology too. And so I know some of them use the CCTV or a screen reader or different things. And so that's great to just be able to make those connections with you too. Another question was just, how do you get to work?
So right now, my mom has been very generous and kind to drive me over to work, but I do have access to public transportation, like the light rail and a cab. So I do have a card pass that I can use, and I do use that occasionally, but right now she's been very nice to drive me.
That is very nice. I don't see any other questions at this time. So I'll give it one more minute just to see if anyone kind of hops on with a question. All right, I think I'm going to just pop on the screen really quick. Oh, Marianne Barnett asks, what advice would you have for teachers? So I'm going to turn my video off and I'll come back on in a minute.
That's a really good question. The advice I would go off of what I shared with my high school teacher, Mrs. Potter. She just encouraged us to speak up, and she taught us how to think. And her saying was, work smarter, not harder. So just trying to find ways to connect with the students, encourage them to speak up and let them trust you, things like that. I hope that answers your question.
All right, great. There are a couple of messages in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much, Becca. Love your message. And I just want to reiterate that. Thank you, Becca, for taking the time on a Saturday to just be with us and to present to families and to talk with the kiddos and to answer questions. We thoroughly enjoyed our time with you tonight. For all of those of you who attended, thank you for giving up your Saturday evening and joining us. We loved having you all here and we loved hearing your questions. We will be sending out a survey early next week just to hear what you thought and see if you have any other suggestions for events or activities that you would like to, us to look into as a deafblind project. And we just hope you have a wonderful weekend. We hope you were able to enjoy some of the beautiful weather that was today, and have a great rest of your weekend. So thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Credits: Jenny Buchner, deaf interpreter; Mary Fruits, interpreter; Jennifer Sullivan, interpreter. WESP-DHH Wisconsin Deaf Blind Technical Assistance Project, WDBTAP. The logo for the Ideas That Work is displayed and reads, "The contents of this presentation were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education, H326T180044. However, those contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.